In today's session, we will be discussing about the industrial legislation. What is industrial legislation and what is meant by trade union, what are the advantages of having a trade union and what are the relations between employer and employee and what are the rights and responsibilities of employer and employee. So, we will be discussing about these topics in today. Firstly, what is industrial legislation? Industrial means related to industry, legislation means law or any enactment. So, the law of industry is what is called industrial legislation. So, what is the definition of industrial legislation? Firstly, we see it is, as you see here, it is defined as the body of legal enactments which deals with employment, wages, working conditions, industrial relations, social security and labor welfare of industrially employed persons. So, this industrial legislation is helpful for workers and also for the management in many aspects, like the wage problems. Regarding wages, there are certain rules, regulations, standards that are required to be framed. Similarly, any dispute is there. So, that dispute, the conflict between the employer and the employee, that is to be solved. So, certain standards, rules, guidelines must be framed. Similarly, what is required to be done as far as the welfare of the labor is concerned. So, all these matters are taken into consideration. So, in all these aspects, the rules and policies, guidelines are framed, and this is what is called industrial legislation. So, once again, it is defined as the body of legal enactments which deals with employment. What is required to be in employment? What is meant by employment? What are wages? What wages are to be offered for what work? Working conditions. What are the working conditions? For depending on the type of work, what working conditions are needed to be provided for the comfort of the persons working and also taking into consideration other factors. Next, industrial relations, relationship between employer and employee. Then social security. So, merely paying wages will not help. Workers who work in the factory, they also need some security as far as social conditions are concerned, their job security, their status in the society, all these things are to be taken into consideration, and labor welfare of industrially employed persons. This is what is called industrial legislation. Now, industrial labor legislation solves social, economical problems related to industrial laborers and improve their overall working conditions. So, why we work, why people work? It is for satisfying the basic needs like feeding our stomach with food and clothing, better clothing and a good shelter. So, basically for money people work. So, therefore, economical problems, mainly workers will be facing economical problems, keeping in view these problems. Similarly, after you earn a particular amount of money, then the need is to get some status in the society, to get some name and fame in the society, to be recognized by others. So, this is a want. So, therefore, it is a social problem. So, this registration now is solving both social and economical problems related to industrial laborers and improve their overall working conditions. This is how we can get the idea about industrial legislation. What is the necessity of industrial legislation? Why the legislation is required to be made? So, here I should tell you, in any house there is a particular law that will be existing, father, mother, son, brother, sister. So, everybody has to follow, even though it is not in the written form. So, they will follow certain rules and code of conduct will be there. This may be differing from house to house, but however, every house will have a system, internal system of some law. Similarly, to run the industry effectively, smoothly, without any problems and to meet all the goals, a legislation, certain kind of policy, rules, regulations are required. Therefore, there is very much necessity of industrial legislation. Let us go into the details. It improves industrial relations. So, industrial legislation improves the relationship between the employer who is offering the job and the employee who is performing the job. It minimizes unrest among workers. Unrest is a very important thing. I may be working today for a particular remuneration. Tomorrow my need may be increasing. So, I want more money. The day after I may be requiring more and more money. So, therefore, in order to satisfy my needs I may be requiring more and more. Always unrest will be there among the workers. So, therefore, keeping this point in view, then this unrest, that is dissatisfaction, is to be reduced to a larger extent, is to be considered. Thirdly, reduces conflicts, strikes. So, if the relations between the employer and employee are affected, and if they are neglected, they will magnify and they lead to conflicts and subsequently to strikes and the stoppage of total work. So, therefore, this is there is very much necessity for the industrial legislation in this particular area. Similarly, we have the fourth one, like provides job security. Yes, it provides a secure job. There are certain rules and regulations that if a worker is performing a particular job uninterruptedly for a particular period, his services are to be regularized. There a sort of security will be offered to the job, like that. Then the fifth one, fixes hours of work, describes working conditions, describes standards for wages, etc. So, what are the number of hours per day and per week? What are the holidays? How many holidays will exist in a month or in a year? So, it describes working conditions for a particular work and what type of working conditions are required to be provided, keeping in view the worker and also the process. Similarly, for wages, the standards for wages. So, there are different types of works that are being performed in an industry. For every work there is a wage system, wage package. So, such standards are to be framed. So, this is to be taken care of by industrial legislation. Then we will go to what is meant by employer and employee relations. Who is an employee? An employee is basically a person who is agreed to perform certain job, which may be a chemical process or a mechanical process or any other process with the help of instruments, and to get some remuneration for the work done. And who is an employer? An employer is such a person who offers the job to the people and pays remuneration to them. Usually the owner of the company or the head of the firm may be considered as the employer. Now we discuss about what are the relationship between employee and employer. As you see here, a very cordial and healthy relation between employer and employee leads the way for smooth functioning of an organization and for higher productivity. There should be a perfectly better understanding between the employee and the employer, and also a mutual cooperation should exist between them. When good relations exist between employee and employer, the industry will run smoothly, no conflicts, no confrontation will be there, no fights will be there, peace and harmony prevails in the organization, effectiveness of the workers will improve, and also the productivity, that means with the available resources we will be able to produce more and get more and more profits. So, this is how the employer-employee relations affect the productivity and the functioning of the organization. Then good employer and employee relationships are helpful in, as you see here, increasing productivity. We have already discussed. So, that means a person who is effective, when can a person effectively perform his work in the organization? When his mind is very much peaceful. That means when his mind is not diverted to other things. So, he will be concentrating fully on the work. Therefore, he can generate more work, he can do more work and he can produce more number of products. That is what is meant by increasing productivity. Secondly, economic growth of the country. Yes, when all the people work, when all the industries go peacefully and smoothly, then productivity increases, and also finally it leads to the economic growth of the country. Economically the country becomes a developed one. The third one is full utilization of the workforce. Whatever is the number of workers and other equipment and executives of management is there existing in the organization. So, the total work will be extracted from every person provided there exists good relationship between them. Then motivating and changing the attitude of workers. Yes, this is a continuous activity. Motivating is a continuous activity. Every time worker is required to be motivated to the work. So, what are the necessary things that are required to be done? It is the duty of the management to look upon. And changing the attitude of workers. So, usually the workers will have a negative attitude in certain areas, like whenever a new system is going to be adopted in the industry, they will have a negative attitude that from tomorrow onwards my job may get interrupted, I may not be performing well. So, in this aspect, the attitude of the worker towards the change of system must be taken care of. So, that is how motivating and changing the attitude of workers. So, this good relation between employer and employer will definitely helpful in this aspect. Then avoiding disputes and maintaining peace. Disputes will be avoided when there is a better understanding between any two persons. Where is the question of having any disputes? So, disputes will totally be avoided and peace and harmony will prevail in the organization. Successful application of methods of scientific management. This is a very important thing. Scientific management, the principles, the techniques of scientific management like work study, method study, if they are to be effectively implemented in the organization, a good relationship between employer and employee is very, very important there. So, that is how in scientific management it is of very help. Industrial disputes. What is an industrial dispute? When there is no proper understanding between the employee and the employers or the management and the workers, then it leads to the dispute. It paves the way, it creates the way for a dispute. So, what is this dispute? As you see here, it is the unrest among workers and conflicts between workers and management. So, among workers, the unrest or dissatisfaction may lead to a dispute. Similarly, the dispute may be between the workers and the management or the employer. The dispute can be between an employer and employer. So, all these can be considered as industrial disputes. Industrial disputes, as you see here, may assume any of the following forms. So, if proper care is not taken and properly, if the conflict or misunderstanding between the employer and employee is not analyzed properly, then it may lead to a strike, lockout, layoff and retrenchment. We will see what are all these strikes, lockouts, etc. in a short while from now. Now, what is this strike? It is a kind of collective and voluntary withdrawal of workers from work for a short period. So, it is a tool in the hands of the workers. Whenever they feel dissatisfied regarding certain things and conditions in the industry, the final, that means the next step is to go for a strike. If it is not solved by mutual understanding and cooperation between the employer and employee, then the workers can go for a strike. So, they withdraw from working for a short period. So, a notice is required to be submitted to the management in this regard. Then what is lockout? It is a weapon of the employer to disrupt, demoralize the united working class. So, when the workers go for a strike, the work will be stopped, and there will not be any production, there will not be any selling, there will not be any profit. Then the employer or the owner may announce this lockout. What is this lockout? It is a closing of the industry. So, it is a weapon of the employer to demoralize. That means, when the workers are fighting for their rights, then to create some interruption, to stop it, so he can announce this lockout. Lockout means the management locks out the factory and declaration of stoppage of work due to the disturbances. So, this is a tool in the hands of the employer. Then layoff. it is a failure, refusal or inability of the employer to provide work to the employees. In certain circumstances, the employer may not be able to offer work to the workers. For instance, there is acute or very high intensity of shortage of raw materials and frequent breakdowns occurring with machines and frequent breakdowns with electricity, etc. So, all these reasons may lead the employer to go for the layoff. Then retrenchment, it is the termination of the worker from service for any reason other than punishment. So, retrenchment is the termination, that means removal of the worker from service for any reason for other than punishment. It is not definitely under punishment, please. When there is surplus of tab, like surplus labor force we have in an industry, then the management thinks that it is more than the required people existing in the organization, then it is time to reduce it. Then in such circumstances, the management can go for retrenchment, and also continuous absenteeism also may force the management to go for retrenchment. Then causes of industrial disputes. What are the root causes for industrial disputes? Firstly, demand for increase in wages. This has been existing since long. The workers will be working and the management tries to extract more work from the workers and pay very less in remuneration. So, therefore, there will always be a continuous demand for increase in wages. This may be a cause for industrial dispute. Reduction in working hours and increase in holidays. Working hours should be reduced and holidays should be increased. This is the demand from the workers side and the management does not want to do this. So, there exists a dispute between them. Then ill treatment and harassment of workers by the management. This also may lead to a dispute. Then share of workers in company profits. Workers demand for a share, a bonus in the profits of company, which the management tries to reduce it or denies it totally. Then dissatisfaction among workers due to absence of minimum wages, bad working conditions, living conditions, lack of security against accidents, sickness, etc. When all these things are not there properly being implemented in the industry, then this may lead to the dissatisfaction of workers. You see, dissatisfaction is the root of revolution. When the dissatisfaction is not correctly viewed and analyzed, it may lead to revolution. Further, it may lead to strike, lockout, etc. Then introduction of scientific management, standardization, modernization and computerization. So, whenever a new technique of scientific management like work study, method study, a new machine is introduced, the workers will totally have a negative feeling. So, this also may create a dispute. Whenever standardization is required, modernization of machinery and also computerization, the workers will always have a fear that the number of workers will be reduced because of computerization. That is very much prevalent in today's system. So, therefore, this may also lead to a dispute. The denial of right to form association and non-recognition of unions. When the workers have a right to form any association and the management denies it not to form the association, and also when any such union is formed, the workers, the management tries not to recognize it. In such situations also it may lead to a dispute. Now, Mr. Subbarao will explain to you about the trade union and the objectives of the trade union and also the functions of the trade union.
Now, let us discuss about trade union. What is trade union? Why it was there? What is its necessity in the industry? See here, if a particular worker has any problem and it has to be solved, means he himself has to go and ask the management or a employer. Now, instead of that, if number of persons are on behalf of him, that particular trade union will come here. Now, what they will do is, instead of one person going, it might be a united of a number of workers. So, in that way this trade union will benefit. That is, naturally when a single person is there, the strength of demand will be less. When number of persons are there, it will be different. So, in that way this trade union will be helpful for us. Now, let us see what is the definition of a trade union. Now, trade union is a continuous and voluntary association of wage earners for safeguarding the interest of its members, maintaining and improving their working conditions and securing better relations between them and employers. Now, let us see sentence by sentence what is this definition of this trade union. It is a continuous and voluntary association. So, this association is continuous, it will not be stopped at any time after 1 month or after 1 year, after like that, unless if the industry is not there, then only it will be closed. So, it is a continuous one and voluntary association. So, there is no such rule that only this person should be there, it is a voluntary, any worker can join in this particular association. Next, of whom? Wage earners, the people who are the workers earning the salaries, they are called wage earners. So, in this the members are wage earners. For what purpose this trade union? For safeguarding the interest of its members, safeguarding the interest of members, that is safeguarding the interest of the workers. So, what are the interests of the workers? What they need other than work, facilities, internal and external, etc. Then maintaining and improving their working conditions. So, they might be working in particular place, in that case are workstations. So, what are the things they need it? So, for example, they may go for good ventilation, that means lighting should be provided and air flow, maybe these fans, etc. provisions and other amenities, whatever the things are required, that should be provided, and securing better relations between them and employer, that is the better relations between employer and employee. So, if the relations are good, then the industry will run smoothly and production will also be going to get according to the policies determined by the management. Now, let us see what are the objectives of a trade union. So, what the objective of trade union? First one is to achieve better wages. So, they will ask for better wages. Generally what happens is, in the industry exploitation of workers may be there, because the worker is needed, the amount is needed for him. If that wages are not paid, he may not be able to eat on that particular day. In such a cases, these employers may exploit them and may go for very small amount of wages. In such a case, this trade union will come into act and see that minimum wages will be given. Second one is to secure better working conditions and living conditions. While at workplace, better conditions, whatever things required. Generally what happens is, because he is a worker, he after all is needed money, so that we may not provide, that employer may not provide certain facilities. So, they will see that these facilities must be provided, and it will be the one of the objective of the trade union. Next objective is to elevate the status of the workers. To elevate the status of the workers, that means the status of the worker will be increased. How? That is, he is not only worker, but he can be a partner, that is he can be a shareholder. In that way certain profit may be given in the form of share, so that he may also be one of the proprietor of the company, so that he will go for a good working capacity, and he will go for maximum production instead of restricted production or less production. Next thing is to take up welfare measures for improving the morale of workers. So, welfare measures for improving the morale of the worker. See, for example, when we give the welfare measures to the workers, they will work with a good confidence as well as a security. So, that morality must be increased. So, they will have, we are paid for this, even then, even not paying for that also they are, say for example, a fan was provided, without fan also the amount will be given. But if you provide a fan, so that it is a facility for the worker, so that he can go for maximum production without any inconvenience. In such a case, these things this will be helpful. Next is to inculcate sincerity and discipline in workers. sincerity and to put the sincerity, to improve the sincerity of the worker. For what purpose? Discipline. So, what is this discipline? This discipline is nothing but according to the production of the capacity of the production, whether he is achieving it or not, whether he is coming to the time or not. Such type of things can be improved here. That is one more objective of the trade union. The next objective is to offer educational services. So, what is this educational services? The educational services might be him during the evening times, that is out of the working hours, or during to his children's, and even of course elders also in the that is late evenings, etc. For that purpose also, even if you go for certain big industries, they are going to give their own educational institutions. If they are not that much of small, at least we are that employers must give certain financial benefit, etc. That is one of the objective. Next is to fight against layoff and retrenchments. So, as Mr. Srinivas has rightly explained about the layoff and retrenchment, in such cases whether that layoff and retrenchments are genuine or not, how they are going to give it, according to that we have to see that whether it is correct or not, that will be seen by the trade union. That means, instead of one person is removed and he is going and asking about that, in that instead of him, a trade union will go it, so that they will have a good strength, because it is not a representation of one person. That is these are the objectives of the trade union. Now, let us see what are the functions of trade union. So, according to these objectives, what these functions are there? Fighting for right of the workers. So, what are the rights of workers? That must be seen here. That is fighting for the right of workers. What are the workers' rights? What are their amenities? What are the facilities to be given? So, in this case generally what happens is, because he is paying, they may go for asking more number of hours of working and or small amount of wages, but work is more. In such a cases they will ask. Next is determining the terms and conditions of work. So, what are the terms? Say for example, a worker is there. What is that he has to do? He has to do that particular work on only that particular machine or some other works, that conditions, and what are the timings, at what time he has to come and what time he has to go. Like that the conditions and terms should be given, and at the time of framing also this trade union will be helpful. The next one is securing fair wages for workers. So, securing fair wages, as I already told, exploitation of workers are there, so that employer may go for always less amount and the worker may ask for more amount. In this case, this trade union is taking an important place, so that fair wages can be given. Next is rendering social services such as insurance against old age, sickness, accidents, etc. So, rendering social services here, such as insurance against old age, sickness, accidents. Here we can see, particularly in case of this workers, ESI Act is there, all these things are providing, and provident funds are there, and accident, if any accidents is there, they will be given some compensation. So, all these things will be the function of the trade union. So, how much amount of compensation should be given, what is the amount of PF should be credited, and what is the share of PF of a worker as well as a employee and a employer. So, all these things will be by the employer. The next function is the political activities, that is political pressure for reform, that is to realize their objectives with the help of government. That is, in some of the cases it may be required political support, that is government has to give certain rules and regulations. So, that in that case this trade union will go and pressurize on the government to see that their welfare measures or their requirements will be given. The next one is developing of team spirit among workers. So, team spirit among workers, when the trade union is there, the people will think that I am not the one person, behind me there are lot of persons. So, in that case they will have a good team spirit, and even while in the work also they will do in a team of work, not it's the individual work. all are same. In that way they will go for the work. As you know, instead of individual work, the team work is more effective. In that way it will utilize, or its function is there. The next function is improving working conditions. So working conditions must be improved. What type of uniform that we are going to give him, what type of workspace we are going to give, how much space we are going to give it to him, not only the machine but around the machine how much space it should be provided. Like that we have to go for it. The next is in India we can see number of trade unions available, like particularly in our state also we are finding out. So in this we are having AITUC, All India Trade Union Congress, run by Communist Party, and Indian National Trade Union Congress by this National Congress, and TNTUC, Telugu Nadu Trade Union Congress by Telugu Desam Party. Like that, these political parties are also involved in this by making this. So this is about trade unions. Now Mr. Srinivas will explain about collective bargaining and employee and employer relations. Let us go to Mr. Srinivas.
Now, as we have discussed that industrial disputes will exist due to misunderstanding or improper understanding between the employer and the employees. So these industrial disputes are to be solved. There are various methods of solving industrial disputes. One of the methods is collective bargaining. The other methods like arbitrary arbitration by a third person, involvement of the government, industrial labor laws, all these things will be there, labor courts, etc. So today's topic is collective bargaining, which is a tool for solving the industrial disputes. Let us see what is this collective bargaining. As you see here, it constitutes the negotiations between management and labor union with an ultimate objective of agreeing on a written contract covering the terms and conditions of settlement of the dispute. So the workers, they are working in the industry, they have so many demands regarding the working conditions. They may be having a problem that the conditions may not be suiting to the workers, that for example a foul smell or a bad smell is prevalent in that area, is expanding in that area, that may reduce the effectiveness of the worker. So that may be a demand for improving the working conditions. Similarly, sometimes the ground may be very much slippery. So if it is not properly maintained, it may become slippery due to the spoilage, spilling of oil, etc. So that may also be if it is a continuous problem, it may be transformed into a demand by the workers. So when such problems are there with the workers, they go to the management and represent such problems with the management. Probably the trade union, which is the mouthpiece of the working community, will be putting all these problems with the management. Now the management has to look into the matter, and the management has to take into consideration the representatives of the working community or the workers, and both should sit together and should come to a solution by mutual agreement and mutual interaction. That means they have to discuss thoroughly about the problem and come to a final decision. After coming to a final and mutually agreeable decision, then they have to put it on paper, and such an rules, if they are required to be amended, which are already existing, they are required to be changed, and certain code of conduct, if it is required to be changed, the management also thinks that with the mutual discussion between the trade union and the management, if things are required to be changed, they will be changed definitely. So this is what is called collective bargaining. Once again, it constitutes the negotiations between management and labor union. Negotiations means bargaining between management and a trade union regarding certain problems, with an ultimate objective of agreeing on a written contract. So the final objective is to agree upon a particular aspect, to arrive at a final solution, and it should be in written form, covering the terms and conditions of such settlement of the dispute. So if that settlement has come finally, and what are the conditions and terms that are clearly to be put on paper. So this is what is meant by the collective bargaining. So it is, as you see here, It is basically a give and take process involving proposals and counter proposals. So, proposals will be there from the working community and counter proposals will be there countering it or against it. The management will also give its arguments. So, a give and take, workers have to take and the management has to give. So, finally, it should be a give and take process. It introduces an element of democracy in the field of industrial relations and management. It you see here, as we have already discussed, the problems are put before the management and the management looks into it and takes into consideration the trade union, which is the mouthpiece or the final representative of the working community. So, this is how democracy prevails in the organization. Nobody is at the top, nobody is at a higher level. So, all have to come together and conclude the problem with a solution. So, this is how an element of democracy is existing in the industry. Then collective bargaining, as you see here, restricts the freedom of action for the management. This is a very important point. The management cannot take any decision on its own regarding any problem or dispute. It has to discuss with the representatives of the workers. So, it is not a single line process that the management can take any action. So, that freedom of taking any action is restricted in collective bargaining. This is a very, very important point as far as workers community is concerned. Unilateral action of the management is prevented. One-sided action of the management is totally prevented by this. Before taking any action, either it can be an action on the worker or in any other manner, it should be with the consent of the representatives of the workers. Then it helps to open new channels of communications between top management and lowest worker. A good communication between the top management, which are at the apex point, and the lowest worker will exist if this collective bargaining is implemented effectively. Then creating a favorable atmosphere for building industrial peace. So, when collective bargaining exists very effectively in any organization, there will not be any disputes. The mutual understanding and cooperation will in fact increase and it develops more and more, thereby creating peace and harmony in the industry, which is a very much required thing. Then we discuss about what are the welfare activities. So, regarding the welfare of the workers also, the management or the owners have to think. So, what are they? The labor welfare activities may be voluntary or statutory. Voluntary means which are offered by the management or the owners on their own accord. The statutory means which is required to be implemented as per law. See, statutory means as per law it is required to be implemented, whether the management likes it or not, it is required to be implemented. So, this is what we have to understand by this word. Then when the welfare activities are undertaken by the employers on their own accord, they are voluntary. When the welfare activities are taken by the management in their own interest, that providing medical facilities like constructing an hospital for the welfare of the workers, like Tata, which is the very biggest organization in our country, Tata Engineering and Locomotive Company, has its own hospital for the welfare of the workers. This is offered by the management itself. So, that is a kind of a voluntary welfare activity. Then when the welfare activities are undertaken in accordance with the legislation of the government, they are statutory. Now, what is this actually? Statutory means the local governments or the central government may frame a law, and that law is to be implemented regarding that particular aspect effectively in the organization by the management. For instance, washing facilities. See, workers will be performing various jobs. Finally, before going to take their food or take rest, they have to wash their hands. So, the washing facility is a minimum that is required to be provided by the management. No management can deny this particular measure. So, this is how this has become statutory, means under the eyes of law this is a must for the management to provide washing facility. Similarly, if it is required, then restrooms, if the work is very strenuous, very strainful, very much complex, then restrooms are also required to be provided. We are seeing with RTC for bus drivers and conductors, when they go for long journey for days together, then restrooms are provided. This is a kind of welfare measure. So, the example also we can give provision of canteens, washing facility. Canteens also are required to be provided to the workers. So, sometimes it becomes statutory on the part of the management depending on the number of workers existing in the organization. Then what are welfare schemes? Welfare activities, as you see here, welfare activities consist of various welfare schemes provided within and outside the factory premises. So, the welfare activities are implemented both inside and outside the organization. So, they are something like medical facilities. Medical facilities are provided, and compensation of accident losses. When any accident takes place, the workers may lose certain parts of their body, or he may lose his own life. Then in such cases, what are the losses? What is the compensation required to be paid? Then provision of canteens, then restrooms. All these are coming under welfare activities or welfare schemes. Then the supply of drinking water, washing facilities, safety measures, housing accommodation. See, up to safety measures, they are internally provided welfare activities. Then what are the welfare measures provided outside the factory premises? They are housing accommodation for the workers, for their shelter. Transport facilities, if the working place is very far away, then the organization, the management may provide a transporting facility like providing a bus, etc. Recreation and educational facilities. Recreation means a club where workers can go and play for diversion of their mind from the regular nature of work. Similarly, educational facilities to their children, to their elders, and also to them if they are illiterates and they have to develop their particular the educational qualification. Provision of libraries and reading rooms, etc. So, all these are coming under the welfare activities or welfare schemes. Then we come to subsidies. It is any financial incentive directly given to the worker by management. It is a financial incentive given to the workers by the management. Subsidies are given to both workers and management executives. So, both are eligible now, not only the workers, but the management also is eligible for getting this subsidy. Then what is this? With the help of examples we will see. And what are the examples you can quote for subsidies? Subsidy means it is let us see a transportation facility is given there, like for bus pass about 200 rupees is the prevailing charges. Then the management may take 50% of that, like 100 rupees, and the bus pass is provided for a price of 100 rupees to the workers. This is a kind of subsidy. Similarly, canteens, the foods and other beverages are provided, the lunch, meals, etc. are provided for a subsidized price, like the price is very much lower than the market price. Then coming to the point, like what are the rights and responsibilities of the employer and the employee to function in the industry and to run the industry very effectively, smoothly, without any conflict, without any disturbances. So there are certain rights and responsibilities which fall on the worker side, and also on the employer side there are certain rights and responsibilities. As you see here, employer rights. What are the rights of the employer who is providing the job? To extract work from employee in proportion to the wages paid. So he has to pay reasonably for the work extracted from the worker. To take disciplinary action against worker for misconduct or misappropriation. So to take the disciplinary action against the worker for any misconduct coming to the organization in the drunken state, etc. We now conclude in this session. We continue the next session.